Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan, Samael.
Good evening and welcome to the broadcast this evening. My name is Aleister Nacht, and we're going to have a presentation today, and then we will follow that up with some discussion. So again, thank you everyone that is viewing this live, and thank you for those that are viewing it as a recording as well. So I hope everyone is doing good. So let's jump right into the material tonight. Again, thank you to all of the Patreons who make this possible, and this is especially dedicated to you. And also, this is dedicated to Magister Cygnus. He actually suggested this topic, and I think it's a good one to do. So I hope you enjoy it. Feel free to drop any comments or anything into the chat. If it's interactive, then, obviously we can address questions and kind of keep up with where everything is in the chat. If you do have questions, put those in there. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the material. So I will share my presentation with you, and again, the topic is, are we alone? So there's always a question in everyone's mind, and it probably began back at the beginning of time when humans first looked up at the stars and asked, what are those? And developed their own ideas of what those things are. Are they campfires of the gods, or are they ships that are traveling across the sky, like in the example of some of the asteroids and things like that, and comets throughout history? So this is a question that most humans have asked at one time or another. So let's delve into it. The question really is anybody out there? So, we have NASA, and we have the different space companies now, commercial companies that have started, and their goal is to travel into space. I think they're beginning with a goal of doing commercial space travel. So, maybe soon you'll be able to buy a ticket to go into space, just like you could buy a ticket on an airliner and go somewhere. I think that's kind of, where they are going with that. And, obviously NASA is deeply involved in this as well. They've been asking that question, and they've been sending these different vehicles out into space to explore our solar system, and even start exploring the galaxy as a whole. So good stuff out there. You can check this out on NASA's website. They've got the entire history of all of these space travels and explorations. Every space shot, every probe, satellite, all these things that they've sent up You can actually go and read about them and actually see the history as a timeline of what they have done and where they're going. A couple of them they launched just basically on a one-way flight that will never return to Earth, but will constantly communicate back to Earth. And, you know, they're looking at the different planets. We're obviously going to Mars, exploring that as maybe a planet that we could populate one day. Maybe we could live there or have an outpost or something to that effect. So, exciting times that we live in, as I've said before. This stuff is really exciting. It's exciting to me. As I get older, I can still remember before there was really such a thing as a computer. And then to see this whole thing develop, it's really astonishing. So, I think in the next few years, the next decade, even if you think about into the next century, these are really exciting times. Having a little green tea there, excuse me. So we live on this dirt ball called Earth, and this thing is our entire environment. As far as we know, there's nowhere else that we could live, no other place that we could inhabit that did not have life support, some sort of protection from no environment or what have you. So starting from there, we go out into the solar system. Now, the reason I want to kind of talk through these things is to understand that while we may have things, quote, under control on the face of our Earth, which we don't, we think we do, but these things that we have done and these things that we monitor and, quote, control are really minuscule in the scheme of things. I mean, we're looking at just our solar system here, and our solar system is like a grain of sand on a grain of sand, size-wise, in a vast area of space that goes on and on and on, and is really hard for us to wrap our minds around as humans. And then if you get into the thoughts of quantum, and you get into the thoughts of light years, that almost becomes insurmountable for the human mind to actually grasp. When you think that looking at the sky, at the nighttime sky, and seeing a star, you may actually be seeing a star that is no longer there. But it has taken this long for that light to actually get to the Earth. So it's a mind-boggling concept, just the solar system. But the solar system is only one little piece of the entire galaxy. So we're talking about vast space. And they launched some satellites. We'll talk about that here in a moment. They're not really satellites, they're probes, I guess. And they sent them out. And this was like in the 1960s, 70s type time frame. And in that time, they're just now passing and going into what's called interstellar space. So they have passed our last planet, and I guess Pluto is no longer a planet, I guess, but past the last named planetary being that there is, and is now leaving the solar system. That's unbelievable. That is basically my lifetime. I mean, I was born in 66, so I mean, it's been my entire life that this thing has been traveling and sending back information every time it goes by another planet, another photograph of that, another photograph of the moons that orbit that particular planet. So it's just really vast. And then here we are in the very scheme of things. We can see the center of the galaxy here. We can see the different names of the arms. And remember, when we're looking out at the nighttime sky, what we're doing is we're actually looking through these arms that are like tentacles. And so it appears again in the nighttime sky. This is what it looks like on the left, is we're looking through those tentacles. So it's again very vast. As you can see here, we're here in the scheme of things, and our sun is right next to us there. And you can see how many different things there are outside of our solar system itself, how many things there are within the galaxy. And this is what we know. This doesn't include the things that we don't know. For example, we're constantly discovering new galaxies, even new solar systems, and we don't know if they contain life, if they had life, if they're going to evolve to have life. So these are all questions that are very up in the air, so to speak. And, all we can do is speculate. And, as humans, we like to have facts and data. And in the absence of that, we have to use faith. And, some people have faith and some people do not have faith. But I think in looking at all this, it's pretty presumptuous to say that we are alone. I think that would be almost to the point of arrogance to say that in the vastness of space, there exists no other life. And then to go one step further, there is no intelligent life. I think that would absolutely be human arrogance in speaking out of turn about that. And again, we're seeing different constellations. We see different solar systems, and we see different galaxies that are actually interacting with other galaxies as well. And so, you look at a star, and it may look like a star to the naked eye, and then using the Hubble telescope, zooming in and taking a closer look, you find that this is an entire galaxy similar to our galaxy. And not only is it one galaxy, but now it is actually interacting with its neighbor galaxy. So again, just the vastness of space, absolutely awesome. And we send out these probes, again, as I said before, to send back information, and they go by these planets and they take pictures. And, so far they have not discovered any life or any, spaceships flying around out there, but it doesn't mean that these things are not there. As we continue to send out these spaceships and these orbiters and all this, and especially these Voyager type spaceships, we may find one day that we do capture, images of something that is flying by. But remember, for all that we know and all we have created, there is a lot that we don't know about things that may have been created. So, it was only a couple of decades ago that, humans came up with, quote, stealth aircraft that could not be seen on radar. Well, if there are other intelligent life forms out there, this may be archaic. It may be like using an abacus as a calculator to them. And we may think that, wow, this is really advanced technology, but quite honestly, they may have cloaking technology. Obviously, they may not want to interact with the human species just because of our record of, how we treat our own species. To an intelligent life being, it might be something that they just do not want to interact with because they know us. And I think that's a very sad commentary about us as humans. So this is Voyager 2, and this is taken from the NASA website. And I put the website address in here so that you could, kind of take a look at it. And, it has all of these missions in there. And so it's really an interesting thing to go through. But here's some things by the number. So this is only one of two interstellar spacecraft, meaning that they have, left our solar system, and now they're going out into, basically the totally unknown. It has been in space for 41 years. Absolutely incredible. 41 years it has been out there traveling. And it contains a gold record. Now, this is interesting because this is actually something that was placed on this Voyager spacecraft, so that if it encountered any aliens or intelligent life forms or what have you, they put some different things on that record, some different recordings, with the idea that maybe, they would recognize, or they could interact, or it would tell them something about us as well. So it's kind of like putting a time capsule on board that Voyager. It travels 34,000 miles per hour. Incredible. 16 hours and 36 minutes one-way light from Earth to the spacecraft. So when the spacecraft is looking back at Earth, they're seeing the image 16 and a half hours ago. Now, that's what I was saying before about some of these stars. Some of the things that are in the nighttime sky right now are no longer there. They no longer exist because it may have taken 10,000 years for that light to get to Earth. And so we're looking at something that was maybe exploded years ago or burned out years ago, but we're seeing it in the nighttime sky now. And one day, at whatever time away from the Earth it is, we will see that thing disappear or explode or whatever has happened to it. So again, these are things that are hard for humans to wrap their mind around. When you look at the scheme of things from the way that humans learn and build and progress, it puts a whole different dimension in that. It's 11 billion miles from the sun. Incredible. 290 million miles every year that this thing travels. 18.5 billion total miles traveled so far within that 41-year time frame. Now, this is as of November of 2018. Okay, so again, this is a couple of years old data, right? So it's probably much further away mileage-wise. And then it's visited in its travel over that 41-year period. It has come in contact with Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So just incredible. Now, for those situations where scientists can't really put their finger on the chance of there being life force out there, they actually have a a very in-depth formula for trying to figure out if there is life and what the probability of there being life out there. Now, I won't pretend to even understand what some of this stuff is, but this is what we're talking about when we're talking about making assumptions. Again, to make an assumption that there's no life out there, I think would absolutely be ludicrous for us to do. And even based on this equation, really what this amounts to is that there is life, a probability of life being out there. So now, in this vast ocean of space, we do have instances of things that we cannot explain. And these are UFOs. Obviously, everyone knows what that is, right? But a UFO may or may not be a spacecraft, right? It just means that it's an unidentified flying object. And some of that could be military testing. Some of that could be new aircraft. Some of this could be new drones that are being tested. So there's a lot of possibilities out there. A lot of possibilities that some of these are aircraft that, people misinterpret as a visitor from another world. But again, I fall back on the premise that if there is life out there, and if this life, which I believe exists, wanted to come here, they would not show up and land at the White House, or they would not show up and make themselves known for fear of us as a species trying to basically blow them out of the sky or make war with them. Can you imagine how day-to-day life would totally fall apart if one of these beings showed up here and it was broadcast worldwide? I mean, I think a lot of people would commit suicide. I think they would just really go mental, because it's too much to grasp, just too much to grasp. And so, again, are these real aliens or are they UFOs? And my answer is, I think a little bit of both. I do know that there are certain things out there that, obviously the defense industrial base wants to, advance themselves. And this is the way that this happens. If you remember back, probably 30 years ago or 40 years ago, there were sightings of these black triangles flying around in these long, looked like spaceship type things, and they had a huge flaming tail and everything. But what really came to light is that these are not spaceships, but these are actually aircraft that are being tested or actually flown. Think of the SR-71 spy plane. Looks just like something from another world, especially looking up from the ground. And if it were using its afterburner capabilities, would be leaving a huge trail of fire behind it. So think about, if this happened at night, what that would look like. So some things can be explained. I mean, the flying wing and things like that, the F-22 and all of these fighter aircraft that have very, very small profiles, very thin profiles for radar avoidance, obviously, and they're built out of certain material that absorbs what little bit of radar beam will hit the aircraft and deflect it somewhere else. So these are things that are real. They are happening. They do happen. But they can be explained. Now, there are also those things that cannot be explained, like, for instance, some of these pictures that I have here on the screen. The one on the top right is really interesting as well, and that is the lights over Phoenix, Arizona, that were sighted by numerous people. I mean, hundreds of people reported this, and it was videotaped. Pictures were taken of it. They said at first, the myth busting type folks said, well, that's nothing more than the arrival to McCarran Airport at Phoenix Sky Harbor. Phoenix Sky Harbor. And this is nothing more than the aircraft on the arrival corridor. They turn their landing lights on below 18,000 feet for traffic avoidance. And so what you're seeing is an optical illusion, because these things are spaced out maybe 15 miles in trail of each other as they're coming over the same arrival points. But the problem is that these not only never landed, but they actually moved from side to side, and then eventually just kind of flew up and disappeared, never went to the airport itself. So, what was it? Well, who knows? But again, Other people could say, well, that was an alien, that was spacecraft. They were doing this, that, and the other. But then you also have to think about this picture is actually looking to the south. So what you would have here is you would see Phoenix here. That is to the south. Below those lights is actually some mountains there. Big hills, I guess. Not huge mountains. But you're looking down to the south here, and obviously there are a lot of military operations down there. Davis-Monthan Air Force Base is a big military operation down there. A lot of drone activities, a lot of testing, a lot of test flights and things like that. So are we seeing an alien, or are we seeing real world technology? Or are we really seeing an optical illusion? I believe a little bit of both at times. Again, some people, especially, 100 years ago, or maybe even 200 years ago, would see something like this and say, wow, that is a spaceship. It came down, it was rotating, and it was dropping things out of the bottom of it, or maybe sucking things up into it. And, now we can easily explain this as being a mesocyclone, which is a huge thunderstorm, which does rotate. And it's so tall that it has the upper air, or the top of this extends so high that it goes up into the jet stream, and it gets a little bit of rotation along with the updrafts and downdrafts of the storm, forms funnel clouds, tornadoes. But it also has very violent downdrafts and indrafts and updrafts and inflows, which is what we're seeing here, as it's sucking air into it, into that updraft, that shaft updraft. It's picking up dirt as it goes across there. So, again, people could look at this, especially if the lighting were right and it being at night, maybe with a little bit of the sunset behind it, and that might be a spacecraft, but that's easily explained. So again, we're on this small dirt ball in the middle of nowhere, and just our Earth is big, but then our solar system, humongous. Our galaxy, huge. Galaxies outside of our galaxies, astronomically huge. You're talking about huge, huge, huge expanses of space that we're looking at. Even tonight, if you could see the stars, you would be seeing something that might not even be there anymore. That star may have burned out 20 or 30 years ago, and you're still seeing that light that has traveled from that star. So my thoughts, we are definitely not alone. We just haven't experienced the right, encounter that would definitely prove this. And again, I believe that the reason that has happened is because any intelligent life form would know the history of humans and the human species, and would either A, be afraid of the human species, or B, not want to associate themselves with the human species for one reason or another. It could be as simple as they don't want to associate with us because they would destroy our planet, because ultimately humans will fuck it up. So